All right, let's jump into it. There's a lot of thoughts and questions around how to make money in the second half of 2026 using AI. Now, there's many ways to look at this. So whether you're employed, whether you're self-employed, or whether you're thinking about building a business around this, it's all ultimately the same thing, because making money is about staying relevant with AI. It's about understanding what to do, how to do it. So whether you want to be, let's say, entrepreneurial about this and you're in a pre-existing role and you want to become the go-to person in your company for all things AI, or if you have a small business, small to medium business, and you basically want to champion AI within the business and make sure that the teams and your team members are using AI, or if you want to pitch these services, it comes down to the same core concepts. So let's break them down and talk about them from the three different, let's say, perspectives and understand, because sometimes it can trigger an idea for you if, for example, you're thinking about how someone in an employed way could do this. And what I mean with that is, for example, let's say you are in employment at the moment and you want to become the go-to person on the office floor for all things AI. I mean, firstly, that's not going to do you any harm. It's definitely going to help your job security for the future. Absolutely. You're going to have conversations with your line manager, possibly with a director. They're going to start to approach you as the go-to person to understand how to manage AI compliance, or how to manage efficiency for accounting, or how to shave down on wasted man hours, or also even just how to manage token usage. So you can see how there's multiple aspects to this. There's a HR component in terms of having less staff. There is a general productivity output component. There is a finance component in terms of how to manage the tokens. And then there's also a compliance component. So you see there's like 4 different things going on there pretty quickly straight out the gate. Now, let's say in contrast that you want to sell your services to a company. So let's say you're an individual, or maybe you've got a couple of team members working with you, and you want to start to sell, for example, agentic AI to small and medium businesses in your area. You're not by any stretch restricted by your area, but I think there's a super clever niche to combining, let's say, AI, which is obviously hyper digital, and then also a little bit of in-person. So for example, let's say you're based in I don't know, you're based in Cleveland, Ohio, and you realize that, you know what, I think there's a ton of businesses in our area that are totally bamboozled, confused, overwhelmed by AI. So let's think about a niche that you know a little bit about. Let's say, for example, it is small accounting companies, 10 to 20 person accounting offices, and you're going to start to think about that knowledge that you have, and then what boring task you can take and package, build an AI agent around it, or frankly, you can find someone who's already done that agent and you can try to white label it, but just get the product delivery together and then go and pitch those services, but pitch them in person, because that's the thing. Like if you go to a traditional, but potentially highly profitable business that is obviously, like everybody, worried about how they can integrate AI into their business, if you go and be the person that can actually sit in the office with them, have a coffee, go on a Friday afternoon, you can explain things in a relaxed manner, that often these days, believe it or not, is what people want. I mean, there's a reason why travel agents still shockingly exist for shockingly as in to many of us, it's shocking, but people want to sometimes have the human approach when it comes to something that's highly digitized. And that's why, I think being the in-person person to go to pitch these services is great. Now, let's come back to understanding, why does that connect to someone who's employed? How is it the same thing? Because essentially you want to build yourself into that team, into that company, as if you're part of the team. Get to know them as if, and act like you are a team member as part of it, because you will then become so invaluable and helpful to them. And think of it from the 4 different areas that I shared. Think of what you're selling to them from a HR point of view. Think of it from a compliance point of view. Think of it, of course, from a productivity point of view. That's what gets you in the door. And then also think of it from a finance point of view. So if you bring that holistic approach to what you're doing as you're pitching these services, the trust level is going to be so much higher. And frankly, you're just going to feel more satisfied. It's more authentic, it's more true, it's more real, and it's more profound in terms of the difference that you can make to one of these businesses. Now, even if you feel like you have so little knowledge around AI, believe it or not, you drastically more than 99% of people, even just by consuming this video and watching, a couple of my videos and others in the space, you're picking up knowledge. And that's why I call the channel 1% Daily. It's just about staying one little micro step relevant with the news to keep yourself moving forward and stay topped up so you can be relevant today. Okay, so there's the 2 points of view. If you're employed, and the other if you are thinking about pitching your services or selling services around AI. Now, the third is basically if you have your own company, again, the same rules apply. But with this, you obviously want to coach your team to be aware of the compliance issues, be aware of the finance side of it, be aware of the HR. Well, I mean, you as potentially the owner, you're aware of the HR. Naturally, obviously having a lower headcount is always going to be easier to manage. Having a high headcount is not necessarily a badge of honor. I mean, I think that was a real misnomer that was sold in maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, I have a company with 3,000 people. Whereas these days, if you actually say that, it's actually not particularly smart. People are kind of probably saying to you, 3,000 people. I mean, I'm sure that can be done by probably 500 or whatever it is, whether it's 20 people or 10 people, just leaner and more efficient. And therefore team members who are going to be probably with you longer term rather than spinning plates, higher paid team members, better looked after, all that sort of stuff is probably better for you in the long run. So the three different archetypes all overlap. It's just about understanding them in different ways. And often you might potentially be a foot in both camps. Now, let's have a look at something that I just quickly whipped together to have kind of a couple of ideas around how we could also approach this. So let's say, there's a couple of ways to think about this if you want to sell yourself. So again, this applies to the three different archetypes that we've just leaned into. So let's say audience. If you're employed, audience doesn't mean you have to do this stuff. You have to put YouTube channel content out there. Audience is making sure that you're becoming the go-to in the office. I mean, there's nothing stopping you saying to the team, hey guys, like at our end of quarter meeting or at our end of month meeting, is there any chance that I could just talk to the team about AI for 15 minutes? I'm not conveying or stating or claiming that I'm an expert, but I would just like to share some thoughts and ideas in ways that I think that we could be more productive. Like that alone gives you that you're creating yourself an audience in the business. That's one simple way. Second, obviously, is if you are employed, you can bring this to your team. And third is if you're looking to become self-employed, then do this, fire up a YouTube channel, start talking about AI towards your local area, like go for it. Because then from there, there's the opportunity to sell a service. And then the third is to sell a product. So let's say, the goal is, let's say, to get your audience first. The next is to fix the service or the product. Again, this applies even if you're employed. In a role, you want to sell the service internally, be the entrepreneur, fix the AI or create an AI agent that will fix a boring task that, Joan in accounts is doing relentlessly, and then get that off her plate. And then over time, there's nothing stopping you thinking about productizing that concept. So the distribution play, so best for beginners, building an audience. Again, that can be you internally in the business, mastering one or two skills and then reteaching others around you. The next then basically is the SMB consulting, which can apply in multiple ways. If you were, let's say, totally self-employed and you wanted to build an audience by becoming the go-to in your local area, then you could possibly build a little bit of AI content and push ads towards the local area and then start to sell these services. But the goal with this document is to basically show you, like, you can become the industry thought leader. And again, I want to continue to remind you and reiterate, I don't mean industry in the sense of you have to be out there with 100,000 followers on YouTube and become a master of AI content. Not at all. You can become a master of AI content in your own business. If you have a team of 50 in your own business, become the go-to. That's your audience. Like, that's your audience. And then your product is basically the tool, the AI agent that you'll build within your own business to reduce man hours. Again, if you're you're employed in a corporate or whatever, your audience is the people around you. Like, become the go-to person on the floor. If you're working in a multinational, or even if you're working in an SMB, just become the go-to knowledge person, the industry leader in your space, the thought leader rather in your space, to become the go-to. All right. So that's the big thing here. And the product play basically is just an extension of let's say the consulting piece. So you firstly become known as the go-to person for AI. Secondly, you start to consult based on that. And the third is then you solve a problem long-term. Okay. So the distribution play is master one or two skills deeply, and then moving on to that, document it. And again, the documentation, it can be internal or it can be external. So it can be internal on your monthly newsletter to your entire team, or it can be external like this. It could be on your LinkedIn, it could be anything. If you're, for example, employed in corporate, pushing it on your LinkedIn and letting others know that you're the go-to for AI is a super, super relevant play to making sure that next time you're hired, you're probably going to get hired at a higher grade, for example, and you're certainly going to be on the radar of others who are seeking to employ you. And, counterintuitively, that'll probably make you more valuable to your current employer as well, knowing that there's, other suitors sniffing around, eager for, eager to put the hand out and the olive branch towards you. Okay, so then the next thing is, share templates, failures, wins, and then ultimately teach repeatable workflows. So whether this is with your own team, if you own your own business, teach them what's working, teach them what you tried that failed, like share that knowledge, and then monetize through a ton of different ways. Okay. So the SMB consulting stuff, I won't dive into. If you want this doc, I can share it on with you. But basically targets, if you wanted to sell these kind of products externally, law firms, agencies, real estate offices, accountants, there's just so much opportunity. But do it in your local area. Like I said at the start, like go local, be in person, shake hands, be, contactable, don't be distant. And I think this is the counterintuitive paradox play at the moment, because so many people have been selling their services remotely to people in different jurisdictions since COVID. You're sitting in Denmark and you're selling services into someone who's in California. Great, it works for sure, don't get me wrong, but if you just zone in on one geographic area, you can notice as well that the chain effect of intros is drastically underused these days, and people in tons of industries are sick of fucking Zoom calls, so like that's the truth of it. Like shake hands, be in person. It's a huge win these days. People are desperate for connection. So the product play, for example, if you've done this, and again, this can be relevant for the 3 different archetypes that we'll always refer back to, but the product play is basically if you wanted to productize it, build an AI agent, put it into, like, sell it to your line manager if you're working in a job, get them to back it and build that, let's say, digital employee, or sell it externally if you're selling your services. What path should you choose? I mean, I think they're all relevant, really. I think ultimately, if you want to become the go-to in your space, just think about what space you're in and then start to build the audience, regardless of whether the audience is internal in the company, whether it's your own company, or whether it's external. And you know what, like if you're thinking about doing something external that's in person, there's a ton of like little opportunities with networking clubs that are still going, believe it or not, with more traditional industries like accounting, like real estate, where people still physically meet up in person. There's also then always different kind of networking opportunities based on, whether it's nationality, ethnicity, and they're very welcoming. Like for the most part, I've never seen a situation where, for example, I was talking to an Irish guy recently who was in Saudi, and I think he went in Saudi Arabia, and he went to like a British, whatever it is, like networking, entrepreneurs networking club. Obviously the dude is Irish, he's not British. They welcomed him with open arms, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure if you go to your local area, you could have, if it's in the US, you might have a Mexican or a Hispanic entrepreneurs meetup. You could easily go and say, look, hey, I think I've something valuable to share. Could I have 15 minutes on the floor? And often these events happen once a week. And there's tons of different other names to them. Like there's kind of the Toastmasters thing. There's tons of them going. I can't really recall exactly the names of them, but have a look in your local area. There's also meetups. There's tons of things. The point really ultimately is just to become the go-to. But as we say here with 1% Daily, like you don't have to become an absolute expert. If you know a little bit more than everyone around you, then you're able to be helpful, be useful. And ultimately, if you don't, let's say, go up the ladder with a promotion in your job, or you don't end up selling services externally, like obviously our goal here is to help you with your career, whatever facet that takes. But even just the helpfulness that you can give to others by just imparting that little bit of wisdom, because at the core of it, we all have to stay relevant with AI. There's so much happening now that there just is no chance to get left behind. So hopefully this is beneficial. Let me know any thoughts, any feedback. Would love to hear your frank, candid feeling on it. And just one little step a day.